Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Nerdflix and Chill, brought to you by We the Nerdy. I'm Gary Theroux, and over there is a guy whose paternal grandfather invented the latex condom. That's so amazing. How are you not much richer?
The odd thing is that he was allergic to them, so he really should have invented something else.
So he had to use
because
lambskin?
of that allergy, nope, that hadn't been invented yet. Because of that allergy, here I am.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There you go. So everything happens for a reason, Gary.
He spawned many children who spawned other children, and now he has an entire flock of what should be very rich spawn, but you apparently fucked something up and pissed somebody off.
Probably. I mean, not just because of that. I don't even know what you're talking about.
All right,
I can't even take full credit for that. It was all Grandpa Capri and his
there you go.
allergens.
And it's allergens. Well, I'm super excited to talk to you this week. I'm glad that we were able to bring this show together. Behind the scenes, people don't know we had some troubles. We're doing more Nerdflix After Dark because we had problems with theater listings and viewing parties and
just call whatever. Out, Gary. I've called out people many times.
It's not necessary.
Let me just give it to me straight.
Just a surprise. Okay, you kind of fucked up. A simple task.
How am I going to raise a child?
Yes, it might be trouble. But
I'm going to take him to the wrong
because of that,
field.
we get to surprise our audience and say that we're going to bring you a surprise review of The Girl on the Train this week. We had said we were going to go see Birth of the Nation, and only one of us saw Birth of a Nation. So we both saw Girl on a Train. So let's review Girl on a Train. And we'll do that, and then we'll bounce over to something that maybe fits better. We don't have to go from slavery to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. We can go from Alcoholic Stalker Lady to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So maybe that will cause less whiplash with our listening audience.
We somehow managed to whitewash this already super white podcast. We're just gonna skip over that real, true, honest attempt to get a little culture flavor, I don't know, a little something up with this. It was that's what we were doing, Gary.
If this exact scenario happened on a much more popular, like, worldwide movie podcast, would people have conspiracy theories about how we didn't want to review it because we wouldn't be able to say anything? Like, we're too scared of saying something on PC? Like, I know neither of us really give a shit. We'll say stupid things on here. But, like, if this is actually a media outlet, people will be like, oh, they're terrified of saying something non-PC.
I actually encourage people to go ahead and say that now. Like, we could use any press. Like, there's no such thing as bad press. So if you want to just call us a racist, a couple racists on We the Nerdy. Blame We the Nerdy. They hired us. We're just the victims here.
Don't do that. No.
Wait.
All hail our glorious leaders at We the Nerdy. We would never say anything bad about We the Nerdy.
All right.
I will say I went and saw Birth of a Nation, and the 30-second see it or don't see it. It's wonderful. It's the movie that all other slavery movies have sort of tried to be. So I like movies that take this subject seriously, and I don't know anybody who's made a slavery movie that wasn't serious. That's a dumb comment to make. But
just that hilarious slapstick slavery.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks.
Sorry, when it's handled by a real filmmaker and done well. I think of movies like Amistad and 12 Years a Slave that came out recently. They're very good movies. It's a serious subject matter, and you can tell real stories about real people that affect you, and that's a good thing. And this movie is definitely deeply affecting. It's incredibly vivid and honest and brutal, and worth a watch for anybody who likes serious fare.
I couldn't handle 12 Years a Slave. Like, I couldn't handle a lot of the brutality. Just, like, a lot of the whipping really got to me. Like, is that a problem with this?
This is heavier than that. This is worse than that.
Oh, man.
This is even more graphic, but the violence against slaves is not the central point of this movie. I think the thing I appreciated most about this movie, what I think is going to make it an Oscar favorite, if they can overcome sort of the off-the-screen controversy around this movie, is that this movie is the first slavery movie I've seen that did not have the white hero character. And I really, really appreciated that. I think that's one thing that's lacking from a lot of stories about this time in the world, or even just movies about
where you have some sort of
people who are afflicted.
Yeah. You have a Liberator or something like that?
Yeah. Whether it's a war story or Japanese internment or it's about slavery or some oppressed people. Dances with Wolves is a great example of this, or even Avatar, right? Any of these stories where people need a hero to come save them, it's always the white, like, hero riding in, no pun intended, on a white horse. And that didn't happen here. So that wasn't 30 Seconds, but see it. It's going to get nominated for Oscars. It's a great, great movie. So moving on.
I'm sorry I missed it. It wasn't on purpose.
Yes, I totally believe you. It was a sincere mistake, and I have no need.
I showed up to the theater, and I'm like, Gary? And then you didn't come around the corner, and that feeling in the pit of your stomach, you're like, I'm in the wrong place. You're like, I'm at the wrong funeral.
Yes, it can't have been a good feeling.
It's the same feeling.
So the good news is, I don't just see movies for this show. I see movies because I want to see movies, and I had already seen Girl on a Train, and we can both talk about our feelings of Girl on a Train. I did not watch it with a reviewer's eye. I watched it because I like watching movies. And when we went and saw that movie, we each saw some of the same trailers, and we're going to talk about those trailers right now in this week's segment of Trailer Talk. We're going to tell you whether to see it or whether to skip it. We're going to predict the Rotten Tomato scores for it, and those will pay off later. First things first, did anything pay off this week? Did we guess the scores for Girl on a Train or anything like that coming into this week?
Ooh, put me on the spot. Gerald, let's find out where... I think that we did. We did. Back on episode 15... I don't have the real scores in front of me, but we were very similar.
I've got that right.
We were actually a little cool, almost like the color temperature of the movie. I guessed 70. You guessed 72. Rotten Tomatoes said
44. Not well reviewed.
Whoa!
So we're both taking a big number there, but with us at 70 and 72, that's not going to have a huge effect on the game. So I'm glad when we're wrong together.
Yeah.
We can keep. Did we guess Birth of a Nation? It's not a trailer we saw in any big theaters, so I doubt we talked about it. So that's the only one for this. I hadn't even heard
of it until, I don't think, like last week. I'm pretty sure when you mentioned that that's the movie we should see, that was probably my first time.
Wow. Then that worked out, and we watched the one we predicted, and we'll give our thoughts on that 44 score coming up in a little bit. So, moving on to the trailers we saw before that movie this week. We saw a preview for a movie starring Jessica Chastain called Miss Sloane, about a political lobbyist and intrigue and Washington insiders, which is very topical and of the moment.
Indeed.
Brilliant release date. It's coming up right around the corner. For me, I watched this trailer and I love the cast. They basically stole half the cast from Aaron Sorkin's HBO show The Newsroom and decided to make a movie about Washington insiders. And I love this topic and I love this cast, and I'm definitely going to say see it. I'm wondering what your thoughts are.
I am the exact same thing. I am. I think this movie looks really great. I think we're just going to leave it at that. I'm also going to go see it. I like the style of the trailer, kind of a little bit different. Not really giving away a whole lot what's happening here, but we know that we've sort of seen this in the last little while. You kind of mentioned the Newsroom as well. Just kind of getting an inside look at just how deep and dark corruption and in sort of government can really get. And there's sort of a weird part in all of us, I think, to go like, if that's real, that's really fucked up. But I like watching it on the big screen. Like, I don't know, that's kind of a weird thing. So I'm definitely.
Well, it's less disturbing to watch on the big screen than it is in real life. So I like political movies much more than I like political.
But it makes you think, like, does that really happen?
Yeah.
And if it does, what are you going to do about it? So that's that.
So you're saying see it as well?
I am also
I've got a very high Rotten Tomatoes score prediction for this. I'm going with 88% when this thing comes out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going to say 85. Yeah, very, very high. Hopefully this does well.
So the next movie, when we were talking about it here before the show, I said I've already seen the trailer for the sex movie. And it turns out that there were two sex movie trailers that we're going to talk about before this movie. One of them for an indie film called Below Her Mouth, a story.
Say it faster.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
No, okay.
I don't want to. For some reason, it sounds dirty, that title, and it speaks well of what you see on the screen, because this is an R-rated tale of love and lust between two ladies, one more reluctant than the other. It was an official selection at the Toronto International Film Festival, as the trailer slams into your face. And
this is indie and cool.
This is one of those movies where I will claim to really want to see it because I watch indie movies that get award selections, and part of me will be watching because I like boobies, and I just hope that, like a movie of a similar ilk that came out a couple years ago called Blue is the Warmest Color, it's actually a legitimately good movie. Because I might joke about wanting to see boobies, but I love indie stuff that tells stories of relationships that we don't normally see. Mm-hmm. It's not the rom-com or the story we're used to seeing most often, right? So you think about a movie like 500 Days of Summer, or even a darker one like I don't know if you saw Blue Valentine, that got Ryan Gosling and I'm blanking on Heath Ledger's widow's name.
I don't know.
Anyways, Blue Valentine's another
Corey
dark
Giltner
movie.
Knows.
Yeah, there you go. It's another dark movie about a relationship and what you would call more real terms, raw footage, right? So I've got high hopes for it, especially on a Rotten Tomatoes score, right? Like, this is a critic's darling. When you're watching a movie that's going to a wide release because it was an indie movie that was pulled out of a movie like out of a festival like TIFF, it's pretty easy for us to predict that the scores are going to be fairly high. So I know what I've got. What are your things? I'll say see it for people who are into these types of indie movies in the first place. I wouldn't. That is a joke. I wouldn't go see it just to see movies. The internet exists. You can see movies there. Don't spend money and waste time.
You feel better about it when you're in a real
theater.
Titillated.
No, that's
titillated.
Gross.
Gary.
That's gross. So anyways, what do you think? I'll say see it if you're into this kind of stuff.
I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted on this one because I agree. I think this is a critic's darling, but not for me. Although it is for no. I probably will be skipping this movie, but I think that critics will respond quite well. They probably already have, which is probably why we're getting like a wider release on this thing. It's been handpicked out of, as you mentioned, the Toronto International Film Festival. I'm going a little higher than you. I see your score is 71. I am going to go ahead and say 80 on this. I think the boobies will win critics over boob over fist, hand over fist.
Wow. Something like that. We'll just let that one die on the vine and say, you could be right up at 80. I went with 71 just because I think this is a very tough needle to thread.
Scissors in the hand.
Right? Yeah, there you go. To try and get people to accept a movie that appears to be as graphic as this one is, and I haven't read anything about it. I've only seen the 90 seconds that they show in the trailer, and maybe they're just jam-packing it and front-loading it with that stuff, and they're going to surprise you with a more heartfelt story. But I feel like getting that type of material to apply or appeal to a really, really wide audience, because Rotten Tomatoes doesn't discriminate where those reviews come from, right? There's going to be a lot of people who find this stuff distasteful. I'm wondering if it's going to be a really tough needle to thread, and that even generally positive reviews won't send them through the roof because there's some people who just this content isn't for them. So 71's my guess. 80 from you. We might get a little separation there. So the next trailer we saw is for the next Brad Pitt venture.
Inglourious Basterds 2.
Yeah, Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard in a movie called Allied about intrigue, and it's a period piece about spies and the CIA, and it just appears to be a very, very intense period thriller. And I think it's gonna get quite a bit of praise. It looks to me like an epic period piece, and I don't know. I still, the little kid in me, even though this content isn't for little kids, the part of me that really, really loves movie making as a spectacle thinks that this is why the Oscars were invented, so people would make these giant, ambitious, topical, serious dramas. And I'm excited for anything with Brad Pitt and Nazis to come on the screen again.
That Brad Pitt, he's gonna go places, Gary. He's gonna be a big movie star one day.
I think he's got it.
Oh, maybe you may have predicted this better. And the other side of this is Leonardo DiCaprio's wife from Inception. She can never be trusted. So you put her in a role like this where she's thought to be a spy. I mean, it's just perfect. It'd be interesting to be typecast as that person, that femme fatale that you never really know which side. She's like a triple, quadruple, double agent. You never know if she's trustworthy or not. She's probably not. She's probably the spy. Let's be real. This movie looks great. There's some excellent shots in this, like really bombastic, kind of fantastic images of obviously Brad Pitt in the front, but just kind of the war going on behind them. I'm interested to see kind of how the war is used as a setting here, because this isn't really a war movie, but it's set as you talked about, like it's a period piece. So I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's the backdrop, but it's explosive. So I'm really looking forward to this. Great cast. I think this looks tremendous. I can't really see where this thing could go wrong. I'm actually going to go quite high and go 87 on the Rotten Tomato score.
Yes, and I am with you.
Yeah.
I'm going 91. I think this movie's going to be excellent. Robert Zemeckis, probably his best work done with Tom Hanks, but when you work with guys like Denzel in a movie like Flight and Tom Hanks with Forrest Gump and Castaway, right? Mm-hmm. He's made so many great movies.
What a track record. Can you imagine?
I'm looking at his filmography here, and I like even some of his smaller stuff.
Yeah.
Real Steel was like a throwaway kids movie almost, with Hugh Jackman and a robot, which was better than most people thought, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
The Polar Express and Gothica and Matchstick Men is a little
Polar
movie
Express.
I love Matchstick Men. I love The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox. Both the Back to the Future series is all him. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Death Becomes Her. Romancing
Howard the
Stone.
Duck. Weird.
Oh my goodness! Corey's back in this week, and I fucking love it. So yeah, I think this is going to be an absolute winner, and I'm excited.
I think we skipped over, but definitely a see it. I love Brad Pitt, and now he's a free man.
Yeah, see it for both. Absolutely a see it for both, and then we're going to go from something that we predicted incredibly high score for to something I'm predicting we're not going to like as much. 50 Shades Darker, the sequel to 50 Shades of Grey, based on the famous book series, starring Dakota Johnson and some handsome dude. I don't know if you watched the first one. Yeah, he might be. I have no idea. But I watched the first one out of my zeal for pop culture. I love things that are incredibly popular. And just so I understand what's going on with the kids today, Sean.
Or the kids' moms, let's be real.
Or the kids' moms, yeah, exactly. But no, anything that really cracks. Like that's why I have an interest in those the
like the Da Vinci Code,
Scorch Trials. Oh yeah, the Da Vinci Code. Those Divergent movies, which aren't any good. The Twilight movies, which were hot garbage. It's what got me into Harry Potter, which turned out to be great. Something worth my time. If it's giant in pop culture, I'll give it a chance.
Nice.
And I will not be giving this movie said chance because I already tried the first one, and it was a steaming hot pile of shit. So I'm not looking forward to this. The trailer for this does not look like anything has changed. Same visual style, same promotional tools. They got, what was it, Miguel singing a Beyonce song this time? Is that a Beyonce song? To try and like make it seem cool and hip, and it just it didn't work the first time. It didn't result in a good movie, and I don't think it's going to result in one now. So I'm saying skip it for sure. What about you?
Yeah, over stylized in every sense of the word, and I think this looks. I think they may actually be using just some like extra footage they captured from some of the skin-on-skin contact from the previous movie, and they're just reusing it over again to save some money. Like it's a cheap Japanese anime film. Not very clever, and even in the title of this thing, 50. The only thing less clever than this would have been 51 Shades of Grey. This looks awful. I hope that again. I don't always wish ill will against movies, but I really hope this does really poorly. The cat is out of the bag. We know that there is no true chemistry between these actors. There's nothing there. There's nothing that this is god awful, and this only exists to produce money. And I really hope that this is bad. This is going to be just barely 2 digits. I'm going to go the magical number 11.
Oh, and I was
9.
It was going to turn into a game of how low can you go? Which one of us is going to be bolder and go down into the basement the lowest to see how brave we were? I went with 9. You went with 11. Never forget how bad this movie is going to be. And yeah, I think the difference between me and you, I agree. We both think it's going to be garbage. I think the reason I'm a little lower is because I can tell you from personal experience that Dakota Johnson does not say thank you when you hand her bag from the overhead compartment on a flight to Vancouver. So I will hold that. I will hold that grudge forever, and I will, for that reason, always review her, predict her movie scores are going to be terrible.
What a 360-degree little serendipitous magical game of trailer talk and Rotten Tomatoes here. We've got a 9/11 score, and it's all based on your ill experience on an airplane with the actress from the movie that we're discussing. It's almost too much for me to handle. I'm surprised I even was able to capture all the stuff that's happening there. My mind is blown. Whoa!
Absolutely. Whoa! Whoa!
That was most unprecedented.
Bodacious. All right, so we're going to stop that
literally
immediately.
The word that I wrote down was bodacious.
We're going to stop that immediately and move on to our review of this movie. This week's new movie we went and saw in the theaters, which happened to be The Girl on the Train, starring Emily Blunt. And this movie, for those of you who don't know, seems to be attempting very hard to capitalize on the popularity of Gone Girl a couple years back, to make a thriller that's a mystery, and it's a little bit sexy, and it's a little bit cool, and it's got a very young cast, a very stylized look, and I can see what they were trying to do, and we'll talk about how successful they were. And it's a story about a divorcee becoming entangled in a missing persons investigation that promises to send shockwaves through her life. So it's based on a book. It's directed by a guy named Tate Taylor. And it stars, like I said, Emily Blunt and Justin Theroux and Luke Evans and Edgar Ramirez and Haley Bennett. And we spoiled it earlier. We said 44% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics. It only got 56% from fans, so not a whole lot better. And I'm really curious what you thought about The Girl on the Train, Sean, having just gotten out of it.
I am conflicted on this one. It's funny that you just talked about the fan score, because I am almost positive I wasn't keeping an exact attendance in the movie theater, but I'm almost positive 4 people walked out.
Oh, really?
Really, which doesn't really reflect my feelings on it. So I went to see it in like an AVX theater, like one of those big, massive, like reserved seating, big, huge surround sound, all that kind of stuff. How old did I sound there? It's got a big screen and massive surround sound. Not necessary for this. The theater experience really isn't necessary as well. I feel like this movie would be better suited as a day and date release in home, like an on-demand type of thing. Like if you were able to watch this in a dark basement with some popped corn and diet soda, all by your lonesome, you might enjoy this more. I just felt like the theater experience for me was a little bit wasted. But other than that, I actually enjoyed most of my time with it, but it's hard for me to recommend. This is not a feel-good movie in the least. It's really an exploration of just how deplorable human beings can be. There's not really a redeeming person in this. It's a cast of people that you absolutely, that you shouldn't like, but maybe you'll see a dark part of yourself in somebody here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was my exact feeling on it. So, I mean, the movie is centered around Emily Blunt's character, who's a recently divorced woman who rides the train into work every single day and stares out the window at this same little bedroom community that she passes sort of right beyond their backyards and gets to look literally into their lives, right? And we find out early on that she's got some connection to the people she's watching, but it's tangential at best, and not really connections to other people she's watching. And yes, a lot of it might be in her imagination, but you're not quite sure how much. We find out early on that she's got some deep-seated issues, and then the movie at that point starts to sort of lay out the central mystery about a little before the 1/3 mark, when one of the people she watches goes missing, as you see in the trailer. And the trailer kind of depicts it as she's the central suspect. And the movie does a good job of taking us a little bit off the path that the trailer sent us on by I felt like in the movie there were multiple suspects, and they spend some time sort of laying out for you a bunch of different characters that may be implicated. And you're going to, throughout the movie, kind of like if you picture sliders, you're going to be sort of moving up and down like, oh, maybe it is her, or maybe it was this person, or maybe it was that character, and they're going to try and take you on a ride and keep you in suspense. So I don't think that's really a new thing for a thriller to do. That's what this movie genre is about. Exactly. But I think you hit the nail on the head. What makes this movie, I think, a little weaker than a movie like Gone Girl or what it was aspiring to be is that you have no rooting interest for anybody. There isn't anybody to identify with, and to hope comes out. Like, I hope it's not them, and I hope that person gets exonerated.
Right.
Or I hope everything works out for this character. And I'm not just talking about Emily Blunt. There's performances throughout this movie of a bunch of people who are almost seems like they were being directed not to emote. You need to be stoic, and we need to like some of the things that you say. Yes, there you go. I did drink everybody who plays this drinking game. You need to keep yourself in a place where maybe some of the things you say incriminate you, but you seem like you might be a nice person, or you're saying nice things, but you're not smiling like a normal human being. You're being a bit robotic, and we need to be suspicious of you, right? It almost seems like the director couldn't decide how far to dangle certain characters out on a limb.
Yeah, I guess when you really I think if you go in, that's why I'm curious, because you didn't really go in with a critical eye. I think this movie lends itself to just be picked apart completely, and especially that it wasn't the first one in recent memory to tell a story like this in the way that it's told. So because of that, it's sort of sitting in the shadow of a few other movies, really. But really, like, on its own, I don't know that it's really that bad. It's not that memorable either. Like, it's even just having seen it, hard to really tell you many of the characters' names. We know all the women in the movie, and I think that's kind of rolled out pretty nicely. But the movie does jump back and forth. I think my biggest problem probably is the way that it jumps back and forth with time, and I don't think that it does that super clear. We've seen movies that are more complicated, that have told the story a little bit more comprehensively. But this one, you're like, wait, are we still in the past, or are we now in the present? It kind of does that weird thing.
For sure.
So instead of the mystery kind of standing on its own 2 feet, it's kind of muddled with this past present flip-flop.
I think that's absolutely true. I'm also curious, did you find yourself disinterested in the middle, or as we move towards the conclusion, in the fact that I think the only thing holding you in your seat as you get through the middle of this movie is they have managed to create a mystery. Like, you want to know what the ending is.
And that's why I like it.
The experience,
that's my conflict.
Right? The conclusion is ultimately satisfying, but the experience of getting there, I didn't find to be very enjoyable.
Well, it's a little drawn. If I'm going to say anything about that, it's that it's maybe a little drawn out. Like, we do start with Emily Blunt's character, and you kind of identify that as the protagonist. That's the one who we're kind of following along with. She's the lead character, and if anybody, we're cheering for her, which sounds weird. But we learn horrible things about her, and her story arc actually is quite interesting. The things that happen to her and that have happened to her, I actually thought that were quite interesting. There's a number of twists in here, and right when I thought, like, I've seen the last twist, there's another one that still kind of happens, not to give too much away here. So I appreciated that, but kind of the biggest mystery here, really the big one, the audience knows well ahead of most of the characters in the movie. And I always think this is a major problem. We should be finding out just as everybody else in the movie is, but we have to wait for the movie to catch up with what has been kind of opened up to us, although not in black and white text. It becomes very clear what is happening, but the movie it takes a little while for the movie to catch up with you, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always the game you play with foreshadowing, right? You want to have that Sixth Sense moment where you see the red or you see the clues shown to you in a flashback at the end of the movie after you know the answers. Though. But this wasn't that subtle, this movie. So, I mean, I came out of it ultimately kind of ho-hum about it. I would give it a 2 out of 5, in the sense that 2.5 would imply that I'm okay with people going to see it, and I'm not comfortable recommending this movie. It just seemed like a bit of a waste of time.
That's a good way to put it.
It wasn't painful by any means, so you can have the 2 stars. I note, for me, especially, performance of Edgar Ramirez as the therapist was a very interesting character to me, in the line he had to dance on of propriety. I think it's a beautifully shot movie, and absolutely. I really, really liked Allison Janney as who's an actress that I absolutely love in everything she does, but as the lead investigator, she was excellent.
Oh, absolutely.
The criticism would have to be, like you say, that it drags in the middle, that doesn't necessarily have anybody to root for. And for me, even coming out of it and thinking about it, once I realized we were going to talk about it on a show, trying to give it some critical thinking, I was really bothered by the fact that the twist of the movie is, and I don't know if I've ever experienced this before, this might be the only movie that's ever done it, that reveals in its conclusion that part of the twist is a directorial lie. That there is an untruth in what you've been told up to this point as an audience, not to the character, but to you, the viewer. And I feel, like I say, as I had to think about
it kind of works, though. I see what you're saying. It kind of works.
It hurt. I did. Yeah, it might for some. It was. And it's probably the touchstone that people will talk about. I would assume if you go see this with your friends, you come to the movie, that one twist is what is going to lead conversation.
Yeah, the argument could definitely be there that it's a little lazy.
Yep.
A little easy. So yeah, I guess I mean, there's definitely some scenes that are memorable. I agree with you. I actually think that it's, aside from some misses, overall it's actually well written. I actually like the way that it opens up. It had me kind of right from the very beginning. Very interesting introduction to all of these characters and how they sort of intertwine with each other, how their paths cross, I think was kind of interesting. But a few kind of key misses here for the type of movie that it is. It needs to, like, if you're going to see like a big blockbuster movie, it needs to have special effects. It needs to have all these different things. For this movie being a little bit more cerebral, maybe more kind of exploring just how deplorable human beings can be, it needed to hit on a couple other beats that it missed. Really hard to recommend this one to see in the theater. I am with you on that part, but I would say actually 2.5 is kind of like my fence line. So I'm actually going to go ahead and say 2.5 stars out of 5. See this one on Netflix when it comes out, and like maybe if you've got an extra evening here or there, but don't expect to feel great about yourself or anything after it's all done. So with all of that, I think that hopefully that gives everybody an idea of what this movie is all about. It's all about mystery. It's hard to talk about, especially this type of movie is hard to really talk about without dancing on a spoiler minefield here. So that's
I think we said all that we could. We come up basically in the same place, which is watch it if you'd like to, if the trailer grabbed you. But as reviewers, if we have one function here other than killing an hour of your workday or pooping time while you listen to us,
twice.
I would hope it would be with this new movie segment. I would hope it would be whether or not to see something that you haven't really formed your own opinion on.
And that's just I'm glad I saw it.
Neither of us can heartily recommend it, right? So go see it if you'd like. I'd just like to hit on one great point you made in your final conclusion when you were giving that review there, is that it is a well-written story. And the friend of ours, Ryan, that I went and saw it with, is the one who vocalized this first, but I agree with him. Watching this movie made me want to read the book.
Definitely.
It is well written. There is an interesting story here, and it might just be the constraints of filmmaking and trying to create an interesting 3-act structure and a payoff twist at the end and foreshadow and visually tell the story of what's going on inside someone's mind that ruined it. So it is a good story and definitely something that I would recommend going to read if you're the type of person who still does that.
I have a question for you, Gary.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
When do you think Donna from that 70s show will finally go back to red hair? Hasn't she been not a redhead for long enough?
I have no idea.
She goes so far out of her way to not be Donna. She will forever be Donna. She should strive to be Donna from that 70s show. I don't know what she's created out of herself, but
I don't know, and it hurts my heart because she's obviously still a beautiful woman as she's getting older. There's nothing's moving to the wrong place. Everything's still going real well for Laura Prepon.
Red hair and bell bottoms. Come on.
As a lifelong appreciator of ginger women, I'm sad we lost one here. I hope she goes back, even in her old age. I'm fine with it.
Well, she plays for the other team in Orange Is the New Black, so there you go.
That is by far less intriguing to me than her red hair was. Like I say, I'm on Team Ginger.
Lie to your friends. Don't lie to me, Gary. What's next?
All right. Well, with that, we've got to go to our ever-popular and growing more famous every day 6 Degrees of Chill segment. It's everybody's favorite part of the show. This is where we talk about a movie that we've watched either from our video collection or on demand or on Netflix, and we've got a time tag for it. And this is where we're going to spoil a movie from beginning to end. Get out of here if you haven't seen it or if you don't want to hear about this movie from 1989 that we're going to talk about today, but we're going to talk about every part of it. And next week we'll talk about a movie that links to this somehow by an actor or director, or in Corey Grant Giltner's case, through maybe a stuntman, as he connected us to Howard the Duck this week. So we'll see if we get Howard the Duck next week. I love that he's still going with that. I want it to come up. If other people want to find connections to Howard Duck and recommend it to help Corey out to get his dream realized, I heartily recommend that. But 6 Degrees of Chill has taken us from, what did we watch last week?
We watched Die Hard last week.
The greatest movie ever. To
the second greatest
Ted's
movie.
Excellent Adventure.
Most excellent, Gary.
Most excellent. And most excellent scores for this thing based on what I watched. I'm shocked to see a 77 on the tomato meter from the critics and 75 from the audience for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Those are all linked to like when the movie came out, right? Like somehow, or are those recent reviews? Okay, so
mix them together. Reviews from the time and retrospective reviews. If you or I wanted to write a movie review for We the Nerdy and submit it to Rotten Tomatoes, it would get aggregated.
Why are we doing that?
We need to get some accreditation from Rotten Tomatoes.
That only happens with reviews.
Yes, we have to produce those and send them in. So
we need somebody here to watch these movies along with us and do the writing. We'll do the talking. If anybody just wants to transcribe this into somehow a coherent movie review, that would be amazing.
That would be terrific.
I will give you all the Dr. Pepper you want.
And we can create a listing of all the movies we've reviewed and what the scores we've given them. So this movie, of course, starring Alex Winter, as everyone knows, and Rod Loomis, and Terry Camilleri, and Dan Shore, and George Carlin makes an appearance. And also a dude named Keanu Reeves, who, for my money, he was an absolute acting clinic in this movie. An absolute gem. Well played by Keanu Reeves. Mm-hmm. The story here, I'll read you the IMDb synopsis. Two seemingly dumb teens, I'm going to interject here and say definitely dumb teens, struggle to prepare for a historical presentation with the help of a time machine. And I feel like that synopsis right there, the reason I wanted to read that one and not some of the other ones I found online, is because that one line seems like the entire script for this movie. And they just got some money and some cameras and were like, go from there. Because
this is like a 90-minute, it's actually 89 minutes. This seems like they really could have made this into a weekly, like, almost like did they make it a cartoon? I feel like this was like a cartoon. This could have happened every week, where every Saturday morning they land in like a new time period and they go kidnap some historically relevant figure from the past. And this is harmless. This movie, really, the characters are harmless. There's really nothing. Actually, I take it back. I'm going to skip to a part I cannot believe. They express some love for each other. They give each other a quick little hug, and then they stop and call each other fags.
Yes. Horror. I couldn't believe it. I knew you would make a note of it. I wrote it down when I saw it. Two guys celebrating, hug each other for maybe a second, and then step back, look at each other, and say fag. And I could not believe it. So yes, it's harmful to the gay community.
Unbelievable. So let's get right down to brass tacks, Gary. Did you laugh at this movie? Did you, was there a nostalgia trip for you at all? What's the scoop?
There was, definitely. For me, I laughed a lot. I just don't know if it was for the reasons they intended. Yeah, so I had a good time at this movie. A lot of it was because I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yep.
How did this get made? Mm-hmm. Most importantly, as expressed by our friend Fed, how the fuck did this movie get a sequel? Like, who watched this and was like, oh yeah, we definitely need to make another one? But I enjoyed it at certain points for the actual joke on screen, and at certain points for how ridiculous and how poorly made and how silly it was. And I think that's okay. It's tough to rank that in a star rating.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, how much...
Objectively, it's a pile of trash.
It is. It's a garbage movie, but for the level of enjoyment I had rewatching it, how do I remove my bias from watching this as a kid and liking it? I probably watched it right around the time it came out in the early 90s.
When you were 5.
Not quite that early, but as a young man. And how much do I remove enjoying the fact that they tried this, and even though they failed miserably, there are things to enjoy. So in a star rating, I would have to give this movie a 3 out of 5. Like, watch it and experience this hot mess for yourself. What about you? Were you able to formulate your thoughts into a star rating?
It is so hard. I mean, really, as I'm watching it, I'm not laughing. I'm not really. I'm waiting for the end. This was a long 89 minutes for me.
Okay.
So I guess if that sort of translates, and we'll get into some more specific thoughts too. If it translates, like, this is like a 1.5 out of 5 to me.
Fair.
I don't think that there's really. The jokes I don't think really hit. I think that it's just kind of a mess. It goes all over the place. That the time travel is actually kind of funny. Just the way that it just is, like, it's pretty dumb, but that kind of works in, like, it's a smart kind of dumb because it's sort of actual, like the loops that they create for themselves where they like leave the keys, like they steal the keys, and it actually the movie is actually more well written than the characters will have you believe. But the acting is just so bad, and it's such a product of its time that it's hard for me to really get over that. And even at the time, there wasn't really anything critically about this movie that is really that redeeming. So I'm at a 1.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm curious where the positive reviews came from. How many of them? The exact question you asked, how many of them came
just fun.
From that time?
It's just fun, but.
Yeah, it's just and maybe that's all it was at the time. They appreciated escapism more, and just like, this is a 90 minutes that the reason I didn't want to give it a score below the sort of center line of 2.5 is because it would imply that it was a painful experience or a bad experience, and I wasn't waiting for the end like you were, but I totally understand why you were. So, like you said, we'll go through some specifics. We're going to try and mix up.
Who is your favorite historical figure?
Socrates. Socrates is a fucking boss. Socrates is absolutely a boss throughout the entire movie. There's a moment where he just starts tossing a ball in the background with Billy the Kid, while Bill and Ted, they're throwing a Nerf football for some reason when they're back in medieval times, as Bill and Ted are hitting on British princesses on a balcony, and Socrates is on fire. How about you? Who's
really
your favorite?
Funny? Oh my gosh, I would probably have to say Genghis Khan. What a madman! Like, like when he's in the sports store and just goes nuts on that mannequin. That is just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Socrates.
I was just gonna say, sorry for the people who've been listening with us for a while here. We're gonna try and mix up the way we talk about these movies in 6 Degrees of Chill, rather than going beat by beat through every single scene like we've done sometimes, or sort of rambling through the notes we individually took and passing the baton back and forth. We'd love your feedback on sort of what you like about this segment and how we can improve it, because this show only gets better when we come and talk to you guys. I love finding out every week about new people that are listening and people who give us tips, and we've already made changes to the show over half a year that have improved it based on what people have said. And like I say, we're going to try some new things. So this time, I just sort of wanted to go through, in broader strokes, some of the sections of the movie, sure. Right? So I'm wondering if anything hopped out for you, sort of almost settling into this movie and understanding what you're about to watch, whether it's the CGI effects the first time Carlin and the Time Machine phone booth pop up, or the music, or the sort of the unbelievable nature of these two doofuses, if anything popped out for you from sort of the establishment of this movie.
So I really actually liked Keanu in this, and it's just like how bad he is, and I try
it's charming, right?
It is. Like you kind of poke fun of it that it's an acting clinic, and he's really not acting. It's really hard to imagine that either one of these two guys is acting at all. They were probably just picked out of a crowd and go like, yeah, this is kind of what we had in mind, so go do your thing. But I have to imagine, because later on, like, he obviously got famous for The Matrix, where he took it so seriously, but in a way still like had that Ted kind of come through, like the whoa.
Well, this definitely stuck with him, right? You do 90 minutes where the vast majority of your acting is just reactions and head waggles and expressing things like heinous and and saying shit like bodacious and most excellent, right? Like it was hard for him to shake, but watching it here, I see.
But he took it so seriously in The Matrix. Like, he talked about something being, I think the term was super perfect. Like, when he talked about,
really?
he would do these poses, and he would do them over and over and over again until they were, quote, super perfect. Somebody can fact check me on that. I'm almost positive that's what it was. But I started to think about him doing Bill and Ted's doing Super Perfect and thinking, like, he's taking this, like, as much fun as it looks like he's having. I think he's really trying really, really hard. The one thing that maybe this is worth a star that I actually really liked about, and I'll give credit, is that this easily could have been like a stoner movie. This easily could have been about a couple dudes who just like hang out getting wasted in their parents' basement all day. And it really isn't. It's just like them, just like a couple high school kids just trying to get by. They're really stupid. They want to create a band, but they're just good buddies and just pretty dumb. And they just go on a totally excellent adventure. And
yeah,
for that, I guess it's worth something, but it's not a great movie, not at all, really.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because I think it seems to me like it might have been conceived as a burnout movie.
Yeah.
And then they just decided it was better to, like, this is actually the studio system doing its work. They just decided it might have worked better with high school kids as a PG movie so that they could get more into their target audience. Totally. So I think that's a really good point. The thing that jumped out at me early on in the movie was the fact, and this is more almost through the entire first 45, is the fact that the things that I genuinely did laugh at weren't part of the central story. It was not the historical figures, Billy the Kid, the scene in the saloon, or going to to Greece to pick up Socrates. It's shit like that. It's calling him Socrates and getting his name wrong, right? I put a note on here about Bill's dad. Like, okay, if you want to date a girl, if you want to marry a girl who went to high school with your son, maybe we could accept that. But then you can't nail her on your son's bed.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're going to do it, don't let him know. Don't close the door on his face so you can plow into Missy on your son's bed. That's a gnarly party film, man.
It's so weird to look back at like the late 80s, and just the style was so strange. And apparently the dental hygiene was just awful as well. I don't know if nobody's brushing their teeth and they're all chewing mushrooms and smoking tobacco. I don't know what has happened. I didn't notice until late. I'm like, yeah, she is pretty cute. And then at the end, it's like that yellow is kind of like a used tennis ball yellow, complete with the fuzz and everything.
It's been used for street hockey. Yeah, she was looking good in some points and looking rough in others. She was wearing the tightest, highest waisted pants in that last scene when they go back they come back from their time travel. She's doing yard work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's wearing the highest waisted, tightest like spandex pants you've ever seen, and it's really tough to know how to feel about them because that is a lot of the worst parts of the '80s with a lot of the best parts of a lady, and it was a weird feeling to look at. But
it was kind of like a weird Stacy's Mom situation 20 years before Stacy's Mom was a thing.
For sure, but like I say, it's those secondary jokes, those throwaway lines that I liked about it the most.
What about the Napoleon subplot here?
Napoleon is the star of this movie. I'm glad you brought this up. Thank you, Sean. Napoleon is all the stars of this that I gave this
Full
movie.
disclosure from the Frenchman.
He was so hilarious. So how many Napoleon notes did I make here? Okay, Napoleon fucking things we know about Napoleon. Napoleon fucking loves ice cream. Okay. Napoleon strictly enforces bowling alley etiquette. Right? Napoleon has a terrible temper. Napoleon's got a terrible temper. Okay.
Yeah.
Napoleon loves water slides. And Napoleon really wants to fuck. Like, he is horny all the time. The amount of different people he makes eyes at in this movie with,
he's French.
like, with no respect for the language barrier. He's establishing Frenchmen as lovers. I absolutely love Napoleon. What did you think of Napoleon?
I hated Napoleon. I hated every minute of this stuff. But when you talk about it, it makes it sound like totally amazing. But I hate it. Every time he came on screen, like every time because they basically they grab him first, right? And then they dump him off with some kid named Deacon or whatever. Yes. And say, like, keep your eye on Napoleon. And this kid takes him around to eat, like you said, eat some ice cream, take him around, and he eventually just escapes. I just hate every time the story got diverted back to Napoleon. I don't like Napoleon as a historical figure. I think he's a doofus. I didn't enjoy I actually wasn't entirely convinced that the actor playing Napoleon could speak French, because all they gave him were like single word.
And that made it so much better.
I guess. So that, like, maybe that's the educational part here. So you get a huge history lesson and then you learn how to say shit and move it in French.
So good.
I know.
Oh, he's hilarious. Oh. I absolutely loved it.
But I like you describing it. That makes it way better.
It was a highlight for me. That, like, again, a subplot. I don't care about whether or not they're going to pass their history exam. I don't care who they're going to see next. I want to check in. What's Napoleon up to now? He got bailed on because he was a dick at the bowling alley, so Deacon just left him, right? I wonder if you noticed here, just to time jump here to a scene that's like right near the end. They're coming back. They're trying to collect everybody. Mm-hmm. They go to see Deacon, if that's his name, to find out where Napoleon is, and he's telling him, dude, we bailed on him because he was a dick. Did you notice?
It's a dick.
Did you notice the fence that they were talking through because he was at a baseball game?
Yeah, it ended.
The backstop was just like one panel of fence. They were literally 3 feet away from the post where they could just walk around and be face to face with each other.
Through the fence.
But it was necessary for them somehow. Like, oh yeah, the kid's playing baseball. You had to include this bit of fence.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
Or production value.
Great production value. We even forgot about the antenna that breaks. Like, there's almost this whole time travel mission almost goes catastrophical, and because the antenna breaks. I'm not even sure what happened to the antenna. I think it's just overuse. There's no trauma, but it just gets broken. So what's the obvious fix? You just share some gum and stick it all back together. You stack a couple tin cans, stick it all together by, like, not just one person just chewing a whole bunch of gum, but just going in the assembly line. And Abraham Lincoln gives it to Genghis Khan, who gives it to Socrates, and they all just and then I actually don't know if this is. Like, there was no cuts. This looked like this was all one piece of gum, so they're all sharing the cooties. And then Keanu, at the very end, takes the big ball that has been in everybody's mouth, and he, like, kind of gives it the little kiss and sticks his gum onto it. That's commitment. That is super perfect. That's Keanu super perfect right there.
I absolutely love that. That is a hilarious scene because I obviously don't remember this movie that I probably last watched when I was 11. Yeah. And I'm like, what the shit are they doing? Why are they all chewing gum? Where did they get it from? His bag seems to be like a magical Harry Potter bag of goodies. He pulls out pudding at one point. Carries pudding at one point.
Textbooks. And then all they need is, like, this backpack. Yeah, you're right. It's bottomless, really. So that's kind of magical. What did you think about, like, so maybe the description is kind of correct, because maybe they aren't quite as dumb as they seem at the start, because they managed to go to, like, the precise time and place where all of these people are pretty easy, like, almost off the top of their head. It doesn't really look like they're referencing anything. They put together what they need to do pretty easily. So maybe they're smarter than you think, Gary.
I was never at any point watching this movie thinking about the primary plot. Like, how are they doing on their mission? They got that list. They got that list directly from the teacher at the beginning. It was on the board, the list of the topics they were going to subject, right? And he said to them, you know what you have to study it and present it, right? So they didn't have to pick anybody. It's not like when we were in school where it's like, do a presentation on whatever you want to do from history. It was specific things. So yeah, I never gave the main plot line that much credit, because I feel like maybe this is what your mistake was. If I would have focused on the plot of the movie, I would have had a really bad time waiting for it to end. Instead, I just watched the background. Like, one of my other favorite things.
The hallmark of a great movie.
Yes,
don't watch the movie itself. Watch, like, kind of like a magic eye. Like, just go a little cross-eyed, and then somewhere behind that, there's a magic there. There's magic.
That's
happening.
Absolutely right. I wonder if you're like me. So the very first guy they go pick up, sorry, maybe second. So like you said, Napoleon was first. So when they go get it, Billy the Kid,
mm-hmm.
right? They have the scene.
Mm-hmm.
They actually do a pretty good job of like explaining why he would come with them to the phone booth.
Did they?
Just the fact that they were getting chased, right? That they got in a bar and they getting chased.
Oh, sure, I see what you mean.
Because I was thinking when they went there, how are they going to convince this guy that they're from the future and to come with them? I thought they were going to have to sell him on it, right? Yeah. So this is when I was focusing. This is at the beginning of the movie. I'm focusing on the main plot.
Yep.
Then I realized very early on they create the chase, which is dumb. They get him back to the phone booth, which is okay, fine, I buy it, but this is a dumb movie.
Yeah.
Then the CGI takes it back to the future. Billy the Kid's got virtually no reaction. He is taking this whole time travel thing like super chill, right? And then as soon as they go get Socrates or whatever, I love it. Bill calls it out. I made the note, Billy the Kid is super chill about time travel, right? And then Bill calls it out when he's tossing a Nerf ball with Socrates, and he turns around and he says to Ted, Billy the Kid is like having a real solid reaction to time traveling. And I was like, that seemed like such a smart job by the directors or the actor or the writer, whoever put that in, who's like, we have to call this out, that these guys aren't worried about what's going on in their lives right now.
Very subtle. I'll definitely give you that. And the greatest thing is, I don't know, all of these historical figures clearly enjoyed time travel so much that without any argument, without hesitation, they basically just clean Bill's entire house. They do all of his chores for him. Without really any, like, there's language barriers, there's motivation barriers, there's a lot happening here. They're just like, yeah, I'll clean the toilet.
Yeah, these guys are down for anything. Like, if anything, this movie teaches you just about being game, right? Mm-hmm. Living it's Bud Light living, mm-hmm. right? Just, you got to be open to it. Mm-hmm. You got to say yes. Say yes more in your life.
More Mountain Dew, really.
Mountain Dew, Bud Light living. Jim Carrey made a movie about this lifestyle choice that was actually much funnier than this one. If you want to watch, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
But all these guys are just down, and it seems like they'd be great guys to hang out with. You see why Bill and Ted like them all so much, because not a single one of them is like, what the fuck are you doing? Maybe Freud when they grab him, because they actually just straight up kidnap him.
Was that a little obscure for you? Like, is Sigmund Freud like a thing? I took a psychology course once upon a time, so I recognize him, and the joke, the quote-unquote jokes, but his lines in the police station talking about his mother and like asking him if he wants to sit on a couch. Like, do people know who Sigmund Freud is?
I think absolutely. If I had to guess about
I wouldn't have known
about Sigmund Freud's market saturation, I would say
penetration.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that most people's knowledge of him would be similar to mine in that I've never taken a psychology course. So what I know of him is more about his influence on modern psychology more than the man itself. So I wouldn't have known that he was Austrian, not German or any other Eastern European, right? I wouldn't have known what time period he was from. I think they said 1807. You could have told me 1907. You could have told me 1750. You could have told me 1890. I would have no idea. I wouldn't fact check you there. But yes, in terms of transference and the bit at the end about Bill's father, and him projecting, mm-hmm. and your like everything coming back to your mother, like all these things are sort of Freudian examinations.
I'm impressed.
And tropes in psychology, I think.
I never would have known any of that. I feel like I haven't heard that outside of that course, and I'm impressed, Gary. But I usually am.
Hey, maybe we've got a psych major listening who's gonna fact check me on the internet.
I think you're right. I think you bang on.
But I feel pretty confident in that assessment. So yeah, like I said,
this is a super light movie. There's really not a whole lot to unpack here.
And maybe this is what it was all about, is just to drive conversations about stupid shit like this, and maybe get the odd high school student to be like, oh yeah, Beethoven seemed sweet when he was jamming out on 7 keyboards at once in the mall. And what, are we supposed to go listen to Beethoven now? Like, oh yeah, he was a big deal? Like, I'm curious what came out of me, and I'll just ask you the question. If you had to speculate, put yourself in the mindset of the people who made this, I don't know that it's a given that every movie has to have a purpose. But if that is so, if we grant that premise, what was the purpose of this movie? Why did it need to get made? Why was it important?
I just think like the surfer California, like I don't even know, are they in California? Is that where San Diaz is like it's just that it was so cool. This was so 80s, like the fashion and the music. This was like an educational music video. So I guess from that sense, like it sort of just fit with the time. I think we'll probably look back maybe in 10, 15 years and go like, why in the mid, like between, what do you even call this period right now? The 2100s? But no, the 21. Let me move my decimal points over. It is very late. So 2010s in the tens? Like, what do you call this decade? This is a dumb decade. That's why movies don't have identity. The teens?
We're in the teens.
We're not the teens. We're in the well, now we are, but like earlier, we're in the pre-teens. Like we're like prepubescent in 2010 and 11 and 12. We're like,
I still think historically those are referred to as teens, even though you're right. Those numbers don't end in teen. It goes the aughts.
We got to redo math.
The aughts, then the teens.
The what? The aughts?
The aughts, yes.
I learned something. I learned two things. So, anyways, maybe we'll go back in the future. We'll come back to this time and go, why did everything have to be super depressing or a comic book movie? So I don't know. Well, I mean, you could probably.
So it's just of the time, is what you're saying, right?
It's a product of the time.
Yeah, so they wanted to put these two guys. That's probably why it did get a sequel, because they just thought we can put these two guys in any situation and make 90 minutes of fun out of it. It wasn't about. It was a
stand-up. It was, I can't remember whose it was. This was a stand-up bit that got sort of expanded out into a 90-minute movie, which is really sort of the same premise almost as Wayne's World. Where it's
like Wayne's World or Night at the Roxbury or Superstar or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
You just have a couple characters and you put them in an extraordinary situation, and then hilarity ensues. It's
assume magic will happen organically.
Exactly. Yeah, it very organically.
Yeah, there
just
you go. Wow.
17 historical figures.
I don't know if anyone's ever gone wrong counting on and banking on the comedic genius of Alex Winter. We all know that. So I wanted to jump back right before we finished off here to your thoughts on the conclusion. You made a note when you were talking before you rated it about how there was a little brains used in the writing when they dropped off the keys for themselves in the escape scene at the police station, and they started using time travel to their advantage to walk out. Mm-hmm. And I wanted you to expand on that, because my note was, is this actually where Chris Nolan came up with the idea for Inception? They're actually working on multiple layers of time travel in terms of things they haven't done, but if they think it at that moment, and they actually show them acting like clenching up, like trying to think something into their past so they remember to do it later so that it will happen to them earlier. Like, that is a dense thought that they're putting in your heads for how they put those keys there, and then how they put a recording device in the bookshelf and made a garbage can.
It wasn't them projecting the thought into the future. It was them, like, they would have thought of that in that situation. You see,
okay, so this is a good conversation. I'm curious,
because I disagree. Realizing that they would have thought that.
See, and I disagree. I think what they said was,
I'm not going to die on this hill, by the way.
Remember to do this later on their current timeline. Mm-hmm. Remember to do this later, because they still have the time machine.
That's what they said.
So after we're out of this, go back in time to before this,
but there's no
and drop a garbage can from the roof.
The movie is ending soon.
So they need to wrap it up.
You gotta wrap it up.
I'm curious how many layers deep they went on their inception in the end of that.
I mean, really, the time travel laws are broken in all sorts of different ways just by yanking these people out of history altogether. Like, what happens to France?
And not counting the butterfly effect? Like, yes, no change?
They just, like, you're with us, we're kidnapping you.
I think we've watched more time travel movies than were available to us in 1989.
Possibly, we
weren't supposed to be this advanced in our knowledge of the layers of time and space. So I can totally respect if you were too checked out at this point in the movie to give a shit.
I don't even know where in Abraham Lincoln's lifetime they took him out. Maybe you weren't supposed to. Maybe this is why I didn't watch the Slave movie this week. Because it didn't happen in my timeline.
It's the butterfly effect. It didn't exist.
What the hell are we even talking about?
All right. Well, I want to thank whoever recommended Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure to us, because I did, if nothing else, even when we watch sometimes what we consider to be bad movies like this, I had a great time.
Yeah, totally. And it's really just fun to chat about them with you, Gary.
Yeah, definitely worth my time in a good conversation.
I think it was Blair who has to contact me to claim his prize. I still have it here. Your Dark Knight in the Blu-ray Steelbook case. It's here.
Yes.
Just
big winner, Blair. Go collect that. Thank you for that recommendation. And to that end, we need to pick a new 60 OC movie for next week. We thank everybody who got their recommendations into us this week. Sean's got a list in front of him, but whether you're contributing like almost everybody does on the Facebook posts that Sean puts up, if you're friends with us on Facebook, he puts them up on the We the Nerdy fan group that you can follow and like on Facebook. And I don't know if we're still getting Twitter suggestions. I've gotten them through text, but you can get us on Twitter at Gary T Movies, at Sean Capri, or at We the Nerdy if you want to tweet directly there. We love your recommendations. Keep them coming. What do we have on the recommendation list? Before you tell us what won, why don't you shout out all the people who gave us some recommendations this weekend and what we could have gotten.
This makes my week. I really love this. As soon as I post this out, it's kind of like, it's pretty instant where guys like Sean Fedunik and Matt Fody and Thane, Tingley, Josh Stapleton, they all kind of like jump on board with amazing suggestions like The Replacement. Matt Fody went all Keanu with Speed. I've got them randomized here now, so it's hard for me to list them off. But Dogma made a number of appearances. I thought for sure that was going to be the one, but unfortunately it didn't. Obviously, Corey Giltner with Howard the Duck. I'm loving the persistence here. We sort of unceremoniously, by the way, started episode 25. This is a big deal. 25, quarter of a century old in a dumb way. So thank you, and we've had many of you guys listening since the very beginning. So I really, really appreciate that. That means a lot. It's kind of weird that we make this and that people listen to it. It's a strange phenomenon. And it's it's something like a phenomenon.
I just have to jump on there and second that. I got to thank everybody who's listening, and every time I find out somebody new is listening.
Yeah.
So we've got guys who I talk to, like I say, in text chats, or that I hang out with in other venues, like we play fantasy football or fantasy hockey or whatever, and we just need to get more people recommending movies for 60 OC so they can have an influence on the show, because it's the only way we grow. It's the only way I have these new people I find out are listening, and I love it so much. We appreciate it so much, and we can only grow by you guys telling your friends that you know these guys who are doing a podcast that you listen to that is maybe good in your opinion, I hope. And so keep it up. Thank you guys so much.
Let us know in iTunes. Give us a review. Greatly appreciated. Getting back. We're going to go straight to the winner. Blair, you're a winner again. And the reason why Blair wins so often, everybody, is because he shares his 6 degrees of chill post, so that doubles his chances. So Blair, you are the winner. We are going back to the Jim Carrey land of movies. The movie that makes me think that I'm being watched every single day. I am self-conscious of my singing in my car because of The Truman Show. Starring Jim Carrey and a whole bunch of actors surrounding him.
Ed Harris and Laura Linney.
Lovely film. I can't wait to watch this again. I haven't watched it in many years, so hopefully this one does hold up. But thank you so much to Blair for recommending such a terrific movie. I'm sad that John Wick wasn't chosen. I'm also sad that Dogma missed out. Devil's Advocate, good God. I mean...
That's some high-end schlock.
I would have just loved to go on with Al Pacino kind of lines from that one. There's just great monologues in that movie. So this is really the celebration of movies that we love doing with this podcast, is just kind of reminiscing over these great movies over the years, or talking shit about them. It really doesn't matter. It's all in good fun anyway. So thank you guys so much. I think that'll do it, Gary. We have to watch a movie next week.
We got to watch a new movie next week, and I think there's one that stands out above all others as the thing that we need to comment on. I think it's going to lead the box office this week. It's definitely got the biggest star working this week, is The Accountant, starring Ben Affleck, also Anna Kendrick and others. It's something that I hope fans of this podcast were intrigued at least about, because it's a fairly big movie starring a big star. So even if you don't go see it yourself, it's the type of thing that we need to cover here for the people who come here for their movie information, Sean.
Yes, hopefully people are making... Maybe people could ask us life questions that we could answer and give them advice on that as well. We'll just expand this to Nerdflix and Chill, and life. I don't know.
Absolutely. Share with us your judgment. I'm counting on you guys to keep this show growing and evolving and getting better. It's all for you guys, and we very much appreciate you listening. So with that said, just to wrap up here, I would love to mention the site We the Nerdy keeps hammering out more and more great content. It's growing every day. We got huge news today that our fearless leader has acquired for us all advanced copies, I'm hearing.
Yeah, all Marvel comics every week we're gonna have access for review. So that is kind of a big deal. Like, not kind of. That's like IGN huge.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate all the guys up at We the Nerdy that make available for us to make it possible for us to do the show, and also just congratulate them for such great work and the growth that they're experiencing, that the site is doing. And I feel like it really that's a real legitimate step to have Marvel recognize the site and say, we want to get our content reviewed on your site. So
legit, there are cover quotes from We the Nerdy, like on Marvel Comics, there are quotes like "is fantastic" or whatever it is -- We the Nerdy. Like, it's phenomenal. They're doing amazing work on the comic side and video game side as well too.
So yeah, I'd like to say just a shout out to those guys. Big, great job. Thumbs up to those guys. I'd like to send you guys all there. If you could go check out the site, we'd greatly appreciate it. And there's going to be tons of stuff for you to look on there. Are you putting anything up this week, Sean?
Yeah, so we did a review on his big week. This is big time for video games for the rest of the year here. We did a kind of a 20-minute discussion on Gears of War. Andrew Semichek played it and reviewed it, so I asked him about that. It's it's on youtube.com/WeTheNerdy. You can find it on WeTheNerdy.com. There's also a review for the new Tomb Raider game, Rise of the Tomb Raiders, on PlayStation 4. My buddy Josh Brandt put that up. There is just so much. I know there's a whole bunch of review codes going out. If anybody remembers Duke Nukem, well, that review will be going up on the site pretty soon. So lots and lots to come. This is crazy time here at WeTheNerdy.com.
Awesome. So you guys go check that out. Thank you again for listening. Go see The Accountant if you can this week. Go watch The Truman Show if you can this week, and join us for 6 Degrees of Chill. And maybe start thinking right now what you're going to recommend to us for the next movie in 6 Degrees of Chill on the next episode. And I can't wait to talk to you next Friday. Have a good one, everybody.
Okay, love you. Should we make this longer?
Ooh.
Are we touching bitches now?
I just wanted to touch your pitch.